And let's move on. I will only mention that for us at the forum we have one more person who is very important for the open data movement in the European scale, is the coordinator of the European Portal of Open Data, which has been created by the European Commission and in fact which is managed by the international analytic company Capgemini. At the portal you can find open data for all of the 28 countries of the EU and some of the countries which are part of the European neighborhood policy. The portal has united more than 854,000 data sets and data of 79 regional portals, and the government of Ukraine has begun its negotiations about the readiness to integrate the data from the Ukrainian open data portal into the European portal. It has happened last year, and a bit more about that will be told by our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite to the stage Gianfranco Cecconi, who is the coordinator of European Data Portal, who came here especially to the Open Data Forum to Ukraine. Let's greet him.
Thank you all for being here today, for inviting me to this venue. I'm very happy, in a way, to bring the European Union to this stage. My name is Gianfranco Cecconi. I'm the program lead for the European Data Portal, that is the EU's bigger initiative for the promotion of open data. I'm just the tip of the iceberg. I work with many other companies that, together with Capgemini, deliver for the EU this project. And if you allow me, because I'm an engineer, I will take a little diversion and I will take you to talk about construction sets. So, who among you remember playing with construction set or models when you were a kid? Oh, plenty, okay, and I like it. So, I want you to follow me for a few minutes in this kind of little trip in the experience of building something using constructions, okay? So you probably start from procuring the pieces. You need to find them somewhere. Today it's probably easy. You go to the shop, and actually, someone actually recognizes this. This is a model by U-Gears. It is a Ukraine success story. It's a company that was started just outside Kiev with a Kickstarter campaign, and now they hire almost 200 people. And they are present in 60, 80 countries worldwide. They're fantastic. They're quite smart. The pieces are made of ecological plywood, and they are laser cut, and they snap together, so no glue and stuff. So the pieces, in a way, are the easy part. You can go to the shop, you buy them, perhaps you go online, and you get them delivered at your place. And now you have your beautiful box, and perhaps you spread all the pieces in front of you. This thing, that is just 30 centimeters long, is 443 pieces. If you put them all in front of you, it's about 1 square meter of your table. It's a lot. And then you start discovering which pieces goes first. And if you're lucky, you have instructions, probably you do, and you start choosing. And you have the first 2 pieces that go together, and then you wonder, okay, how do I do that? Do I glue them together? Do I need special tools? So there's a component of skills there. You also need to learn what you're doing. But 6 hours later, if you're lucky, you actually have this thing. You can actually go on YouTube and see the video. 6 hours it takes to build this thing. And it's beautiful, and it still smells of plywood. It's all yours, you built it, and the actual gears move when you move the locomotive. So hold on to that feeling, that satisfaction of having built something. And then go back to open data. So my background is software engineering and data science more recently. And that feeling you have when you build something like that is the same feeling you have when you build a successful data project. And the insight you gain from the data has the same feeling of success you have after those 6 hardcore construction hours. And if you notice, the process is made of 3 parts, the same I described before. You need to procure the pieces, you need to procure the data, and that's what portals do well. The EDP, of course, offers itself as a single point of entry for finding European countries' data. There's a second component that is the discovery part of it. So you need to actually find what you need. There may be similar pieces, there may be pieces that are not good enough for what you need to build, and that's a complicated part enough, and EDP tries to address that by enabling search, for example, in a relatively advanced way across all countries in one place, particularly useful if you need to deliver something that is a European focus. And the third part, that is the skills and literacy, that are particularly dear to me, because it's still a big problem, in my opinion, across all of Europe. We cannot really realize value and insight out of the data until we help people develop those literacy and those skills. And I'm not saying that everybody should become data scientists. In the same way, not everybody needs to be a mathematician or a physicist, but we need to understand what mathematics is about, and what physics is about, and what data science is about. Entrepreneurs of tomorrow, the younger among you, need to know what data science can deliver for you, even if you're not data scientists. And that's the literacy part. Now, easy, right? Let's try and look where to go next then. So what should a modern open data program look like? At least this is from my perspective running the EDP. So let's use again those three dimensions because they work very well for me. The publishing. The European Data Portal, of course, will keep publishing data. And I'm looking in the audience now because I may have a nice announcement to make, that is the Ukrainian data portal is actually coming to the EDP by the end of October. And I'm very happy with that. Woo, applause. So together with the other countries, you will be able to find your own data on the EDP. In terms of discoverability, we are trying to make real what Sir Tim Berners-Lee sometimes calls the web of data rather than the web of hypertext. So something that transcends data that is readable and accessible to humans to actually make it more machine readable. That's a bit of a technical term that perhaps you're all comfortable with. The idea is improving discoverability, make it faster, and the time that is saved, the effort that is saved, will go instead on actually delivering insight. That is the important part, right? Moreover, when we will all be replaced by robots, they will find data like this. And finally, the learning and the skills and literacy. So if you visit the EDP, you will see that we already offer for anybody visiting the website quite a substantial corpus of e-learning modules. And they are also licensed in the open. You can download them, you can improve them, translate them, customize what you need, distribute in your companies, as long as they respect the license, that is a share alike. And that, in a way, already pushes in that direction. And for the skills or the more advanced literacy component, we also have the EU sponsoring us running workshops. So we, quite ambitiously, for example, next week I will be in France, where I will try to help a community of European countries coming to the event to find a unified model to assess the impact of open data. Because in the end, we have a few already. So the numbers you offered earlier comes from the study from university here, but we are still talking different languages. It would be incredibly useful if we found a way to communicate in a way that is consistent and homogeneous with how the impact of open data is measured. And the workshops is something we run for civil servants, for the countries that are close to us, and we want to hear from you about what is necessary, what you need. I believe personally, coming from that kind of background, a bit of activism, a bit of data science, that actually who really knows what is needed is the people in this room probably. And I'm on this stage, but ideally see me with you there. I mean, I need to hear from you, and I'm not saying this in a way that is rhetorical. Literally come to me afterwards, because I need to hear what you need, and the EU wants to help you. Now, I may sound a bit starry-eyed, oh great, all is easy. It's not, I know that, I told you. I come from that kind of background, I know it's hard, Last week I was in Finland and Estonia. I visited both countries' teams that run the open data portals. Actually, my wife was not too happy. We're on holiday in Estonia, but that's another point. And they have similar experiences to probably what is yours. Open data programs are run on a very short budget, with very few people, and it is a challenge. The EU understands that, and you probably have seen how committed it is to develop, let's say, a good use of data across all the spectrum. It's not just open data. I mean, you must know about the General Data Protection Regulation trying to address the problem of doing personal data properly. I believe later this year there will be an agency called Support Center for Data Sharing that will instead support Europe to share data across countries and, across companies and government where it cannot be made open. Perhaps it's confidential for any reason. So developing standard license terms, for example. And later in time, there's a new regulation coming called the free flow of non-personal data that will try to homogenize legislation around, for example, storage and processing of data across borders. So removing a lot of the concern about what happens if I actually rely on a supplier that is not in my country when I store data for my service. So all of these shows how aware the EU is about what we're doing. They may seem far to some, they are not. But they need to listen to what you ask, and that is my point. So, actually, one more point that is important in this space. I've learned yesterday from talking to Mr. Bodorenko and Ryzenko that there's one more element perhaps in the discovery, procuring and learning process that you are particularly rich of, that is the channels you have to ask for the data you want. In most of the rest of Europe, you will find what is commonly called a freedom of information request. But FOIs, apart from being very expensive to run, usually generate a very punctual response to what you have asked. Does not necessarily generate, let's say, neutral, you would say raw data set that you can use and reuse. So, of course, I know very little about this yet, but I wish you to develop that tool. I would really like to see it coming to the rest of Europe, and possibly one of the future workshops for the EU, maybe perhaps you presenting to us how you do that. I don't know how you do that. I wish I knew. So, to finish, this is not definitely a task just for the European data portal. We are not going to break the ice across all the spectrum. There is so much work to do at the national level, regional level. But we really want to support you. And the point about discoverability, procurement, and learning is something I would like to stay with you. If we are here celebrating the value of open data, try to connect the value chain of that value to this sequence. Don't focus just on one, because the other two will penalize the outcome. And the insight is only generated on the top of this sequence of stages. So I'm really glad again to bring Ukraine to the EDP. I truly invite you to get back to me. You can find me by email on gianfranco.cecconi@capgemini.com, and the European Data Portal Twitter account is @EU_Data Portal. That's it, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cecconi.
Pane Gianfranco Cecconi. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we'll have the opportunity to pose the question, to ask the questions to our key speaker. So we have our helpers, our assistants with the microphone. So if you have any questions to Mr. Gianfranco Cecconi, so please raise your hand and we would like to listen for your questions. Добрий день. This is
South Europe, you're all the same. Yeah.
No, vabbè. Se è più facile in italiano posso fare in italiano. Ok, praticamente il livello di open data in Ucraina e in Italia. Ok.
In
No? Okay.
English.
So the level of open data in Italy and Ukraine, how it is? Because when I was last time in Italy, it was in 2010. You know that la mamma dei cretini è sempre incinta, so thank you.
So, what's the level? How do you compare Italy and Ukraine, or perhaps any other country in Europe with Ukraine? I tend to walk away to direct comparison because I don't think an answer really addresses the point. I would rather evaluate the community using it rather than the data itself. And the point I made before, I really would like to have effective ways to measure how alive the community that let's say floats around open data is. Moreover, I left Italy in 2005, so I will not be able to say. What I know is that it's less different than you would expect. So the point I was making earlier, we are all struggling with the same kind of trouble. Many of the initiatives around open data started as a sort of an experiment, not with the idea of gaining traction. It was something that government perhaps wanted to show commitment to transparency, but only later the component about the economy and the benefits for businesses and other kind of social impact application is also only something that came later. And all countries are in around the same situation. To a point, you may actually find that younger countries have an advantage. I mean, everybody names Estonia usually, right? Because the IT systems are modern, they've been built recently. You come from a sort of tabula rasa situation where any new ideas is more welcome because you don't have to fight for consistency with perhaps with decades of bureaucracy and conventions. I would definitely welcome, would definitely invite the Ukraine to leverage the same strength because we see it working before.
Дякуємо. Дякуємо, пан Cecconi. Наступне запитання. Немає запитань.
So no more questions? Дуже вам дякуємо. Thank you. Thank you very much, friends, and I would like to once again remind you of both the coordinator of the European Portal of Open Data, Gianfranco Cecconi. So once again, I would like to remind you that Gianfranco has visited Ukraine, especially for our forum, so thank you very much for visiting it. And we're going to continue, and I would like to once again say that in about a couple of minutes we're going to have a coffee break, and after that, a small spoiler, the corruption or anti-corruption, anti-corruption and non-corruption. Katerina Onilioglu, the head of the TAPAS project from the Eurasia Fund. In a couple of minutes, we're going to have her. Before that, you will have the opportunity to move to a neighboring room and to have some coffee or tea and to talk a bit. But before that, I would like to once again tell you that the main value of the open data is to be used by the civil society and businesses, and you're about to hear it once again from our guests and from the Ukrainian speakers and the representatives of the state administration. But what we do believe that the main value of the open data is that they bring the real economic effects. They have the real economical impact. And I do believe that Katerina and all of the other speakers are going to speak about it after the post. So this year Open Data Forum is focused on gaining the maximum of effect on open data for the economics of our country. And the next video is about it. And afterwards, I would like to invite the speakers of the first panel straight away after the coffee break.